Ashley, what's next?
Next is from Christian Hannah. Hey, John and Robert. I just heard that Josh Brolin is joining the Dune reboot. I think he and the rest of the cast are great, but are they biting off more than they can chew? I barely know what Dune is, and I haven't heard many people around my early 20s age talk about Dune. A cast like that needs a huge budget, and I'm worried that we could see another Blade Runner 2049 flop. Am I being paranoid?
I don't know. I don't think you're being paranoid, but I do think there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one, first of all, let's talk about this. Josh Brolin is joining Dune. Okay, so let's. Oh my God, Josh Brolin is joining Dune.
And he's playing
Dune.
Gurney Halleck,
and he's
which
playing
is really
Gurney,
cool.
who of course was played by
Patrick Stewart,
the great Patrick Stewart. And I remember there were some people who were wondering, like, should Stewart come back and play? I mean, he'd be a really old Gurney at this point, but could he be like grizzled and everything? Which, I mean, that could have been fun too. But is the cast going to cost the lion's share of a $200 million budget? No. I mean, these are going to be expensive, but probably not all that expensive. And right now, Denis Villeneuve is one of these directors that actors are going to line up to work with him right now. And when we're talking about Josh Brolin, let's look at this in context. This isn't just in a vacuum. It's not just, oh, Josh Brolin. Look at this. We've got Rebecca Ferguson is in it. Of course, yeah, no kidding. We've got the lead, Timothy Chalamet. We've got Josh Brolin now in there. We got Charlotte Rampling. We've got Javier Bardem. We've got Oscar Isaac. We got Dave Bautista. And oh, by the way, Stellan Skarsgård is in there too. And I don't even know if we've heard the last of this yet. Rob, look, I know you are a big fan of Dune. I know you've been looking forward to this project. I'm looking at this list and I am just freaking getting geek boners over it. What are your reactions to this? What do you think about this?
Well, for the guy who wrote in, I have to say that when I was in junior high and high school, Dune was one of the most important geek books to be reading. Everybody read it. I mean, Dune is still one of the greatest works of science fiction literature. It was published in 1965. It's epic. It's epic sci-fi, and it deals with all of the great topics. And it is such a heady, interesting, fantastically well-written tome. I mean, it's really Frank Herbert, who created Dune, wrote 6 Dune novels, and then it was taken over by his son and Kevin Anderson. But the first 6 Dune novels are one of the epic works of science fiction ever written. And that they're having all these actors come in leads me to believe that they are going to indeed, they're making 2 movies. They'll probably make more. But in terms of budget, I'm almost positive that these actors are being paid under what's called favored nations, which means that they probably are all getting paid the same amount of money. So they're not probably breaking the bank. I think these actors want to work with this director. They want to be involved with this project because it's going to be prestige. And, Blade Runner 2049, it might have lost money, but it is an astonishing achievement in motion pictures.
And a lot of people of the few people who went to go see it, everybody who saw it tend to really like it.
It's an amazing film that just gets better and better and better the more you watch it. And I think if you go back and you look at Prisoners, you look at Sicario, you look at Arrival, Denis Villeneuve is one of the most exciting and elegant directors working today. So that's what actors want. They want great parts and a great director and a great script. And they're going to be getting all that. And what's even better is we're going to be getting all that. And I am probably more excited. I'm not as excited as I am to see Endgame.
No. I mean, I wouldn't guess.
I am probably more excited to see this movie than I've been excited to see any movie in the last decade.
And, the other thing is this, is that, hey, I've never heard of Dune. Well, you know what? Lots of movies come out that you've never heard of. Nobody heard of Titanic. I mean, the boat, but there was no story. There was no anything. Nobody had heard of Avatar before James Cameron put it out. I mean, so it could be. Now, also, Dune, like you're saying, it's a property that was a completely celebrated novel long before it had any on-screen adaptation. Now you can make an argument that Blade Runner had, what was it called? Robots Dream of Electric Sheep?
Dude, that's, yeah.
But that wasn't nearly on the status of Dune.
No, like, when I was growing up, kids were either reading Lord of the Rings or Dune.
Right.
It's so funny. We didn't have YA fiction. My YA fiction was Stephen King, but Dune and Lord of the Rings were, if you were a geek in growing up, even in elementary school, I joined the science fiction book club when I was 10 years old, and I would get books every month, and I got Dune when I was in like the 5th grade, but I tried to read it and it was a little above my pay grade at the time. But I read it probably when I was 14 and it rocked my world. I read Dune, Children of Dune, and Dune Messiah. And then as I grew older, like God Emperor of Dune came out, and then Chapter House Dune, and the other 3 books came out, and they were astonishing works of science fiction. I mean, the most heady stuff you can read. And this cast, I mean, Charlotte Rampling is playing Mother Mohiam, the head of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. I mean, come on. And Sean Phillips, one of the greatest actresses ever, played her in Lynch's movie. This casting is amazing.
So what do you think? I mean, I know that the books were well received, but was David Lynch's Dune movie in the 80s well received?
Yeah. No. No, it wasn't. I mean, I think the problem was Dune is such a sprawling movie, and it's a really hard adaptation. There's so many, all the words and all, you have to explain who all these people are. It's like Game of Thrones. It literally is like Game of Thrones.
It really is.
It's all about the machinations of the galaxy and who's doing what to whom and why are they doing it. And it's epic. I mean, it's huge and epic, and trying to fit all that into a 2-hour plus movie was a mistake. But I think Dune is a beautiful mess.
I can really see David Lynch doing it. It doesn't sound like...
No, it's crazy. And then they did a TV miniseries. They did Dune, and then they did Children of Dune, which was really interesting. It was almost like theatrical.
I like
in a way.
I like that. I like that miniseries a lot. But look, the other thing to keep in mind here is this: no one is saying look, if you're looking for a guarantee that this is going to be a blockbuster hit, where Blade Runner 2049 was a flop, no one can guarantee that. Who knows? I mean, it's a celebrated series. We've seen celebrated series not do well. It's got a great cast. We've seen movies with great cast not do well. It's all going to kind of be tempered on the whole. What is the marketing campaign? Look, I'll tell you this story right now. If they make the same mistake that Blade Runner 2049 did, where, remember that I said the biggest thing, that marketing campaign for Blade Runner 2049, Rob, I went off on this and nobody believed me. It never told anybody what that movie was about.
No, that
none of the
marketing
it was
terrible.
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 Yeah, it just never showed anybody what the movie was about at all. They just thought, who cares? It's Blade Runner. Just put Blade Runner on it and everybody will come. And they didn't.
And not only that, but like Blade Runner itself was not a big hit. It was in the summer of E.T. and Poltergeist and Star Trek II and The Road Warrior. Blade Runner failed at the box office. And it's only, the hipster intelligentsia. Look, I think Blade Runner is a seminal movie. But, Dune could be the same. I mean, they really need to sell Dune to people. I really believe. Because Dune, like this kid said, in my 20s, no one's reading Dune. Dune is not, it's like when I was a kid, everybody knew what Dune was. Now, nobody knows what Dune is, other than it's a David Lynch movie that was made 35 years ago. Whereas they really need to step up and they need to sell this. Like if you love Lord of the Rings and you love sci-fi and you love Star Wars and you love Game of Thrones, Dune is Game of Thrones in space.
Yeah, it's all going to be about the marketing.